Happy Monday, horror book maggots. It is mid-October, so it is getting a little chilly in Wisconsin. Thus, I am all wrapped up in my super fuzzy house coat. This weekend, I finished a couple of books, including Pen Pal by Dathan Auerbach. Now, this book has been on my Amazon wish list for literally years because I had originally read the majority of this story when it was on NoSleep on Reddit. And then when the author posted on Reddit that he was getting published, I made sure that I went out and put it on my wish list. And now that I have a Kindle, I have bought the ebook and am very happily read it this past weekend. Now, because it was on the NoSleep Reddit forum, it is mainly just creepy and not actually like horror or very descriptive in the horror part. It's mainly written to make you feel extremely uneasy and to remind you how back in the 80s and 90s, how children were pretty much left on their own. The mother in the story does do a pretty good job once she realizes that something sinister is obsessed with her son. She puts in some guidelines and rules trying to make sure that he stays safe. Like she gets him a watch and has a timer set so that way he has to check in whenever that timer goes off at home, so that way she knows that he's safe. So kudos to her for thinking about it, and kudos to this little kindergartner who actually keeps the watch on or remembers to put the watch on and listen to the alarms and go back home, because I wouldn't have been able to do that when I was a kid. The other thing that I enjoyed about the book, again, it does take place in the 80s or 90s, is a reminder of how much we spent time outside and all the adventures that we would get into and how much we used our imagination when we were playing out in the woods. It was really, really great, but it could have gotten really scary. So Pen Pal follows the story of, I believe his name is Alex, and when he was in kindergarten, this happened a lot before we were really conscious of what balloons did to the environment, is you attached your name and address or a letter to a balloon and you let it go, and then you would wait and see to see if you got a letter back from whoever found it. I remember doing this in elementary school. But what happens with this book, Pen Pal, is what if the person who gets that letter doesn't have good intentions and takes it upon themselves to then find that child and becomes obsessed? What do you do? Now, like I said, the mom did take a lot of steps to protect her son. So I say kudos to her. She may have been detrimental by keeping it so secret, but again, this was the 80s and 90s where you kept your family concerns in the family. Like, you didn't talk about them to outside people. You didn't share the problems that you were having with other people because we were very isolated. There were a couple of parts where I wish they would have gone into a little bit more detail, and I think that's what I was expecting it to be different from the NoSleep entries, was that I wanted them to be expanded on, so I've already read the NoSleep stories. Expand on them, clarify them, because the author was limited to the guidelines of Reddit and couldn't get very deep into them. So I just kind of wish that it would have been a little bit more spelled out on some things. For example, I'm still not 100% sure what was in the old lady's house by the lake. Like, was the stalker in there? Or did she just go crazy and dig up dead bodies? I have no idea. And then I felt that the ending could have been established a little bit more. But so if you're looking for a creepy book or a horror book that doesn't get very bloody, I do recommend Pen Pal. It has a cult following online, I think mainly because it did start off as a very early No Sleep story, and so the people of Reddit and No Sleep are just happy that one of their own has made it into the published world, and that's exciting for us to see. And it did bring a lot of nostalgia back. The author is really great and at bringing up what it was like in the 80s and 90s, and us older folk like to read it. So it actually is probably does a better job of explaining how the 80s and 90s were in a creepy setting, better than Stranger Things, to be honest. So I would recommend this over Stranger Things. And I really like Stranger Things. So this is a good book. So that's all I really have to say about Pen Pal. If you read it, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Did you read it when it was part of No Sleep on Reddit? Or if you have another book that's similar, I would also enjoy hearing about it so I can pick that up and read it. So until next time, remember, you are enough just the way you are. Don't release balloons into the environment because you could end up picking up a stalker, and it's very bad for the wildlife. They swallow it thinking that it's food, and then they choke to death. And go get lost in some pages. Bye.